Hello, folks. This is Steve, AB4L. Nothing in this episode is a promotion, nor is it a recommendation. And I'm going to have to take some of the blame. Yeah, you'll see. So I'm looking at slashdot.org, News for Nerds. What a hodgepodge of all kinds of stuff. Right here, today, at this moment, what's the number one article? America's farmers are bogged down by data, according to the Wall Street Journal. A decade after data analytics promised to revolutionize agriculture. A decade? Somebody is living in a hole in the ground and doesn't know what they're talking about. Whoever Bell Lynn is. Uptake of ag tech tools has been tepid, and even many farmers who do use them struggle with the software and a flood of data from their farms. So there's a soybean farmer in Iowa. You know, North Carolina is the leading East Coast producer of soybeans. A decade after analytics their swamp, but it says a decade. In 2013, that's a decade, remember 2013, a decade, seed and pesticide giant Monsanto acquired agriculture data firm Climate Corporation for $1 billion, helping spur the industry's mania for data-driven farming. The hope was that by outfitting farmers with software and tools capable of ingesting and analyzing troves of data on things from weather patterns to soil conditions, they could more efficiently use their land, meaning grow crops, harvest them, sell them, make money, do better crop rotation, pest management of all kinds, irrigation, nutrients, blah, 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 blah. Many are still waiting for the technology to pay off. In the U.S., less than half of farmers surveyed are using farm management software, and 25% are using remote sensing and precision agriculture hardware. Then they go on to talk about AI. It has to jump fourth paragraph. It has to mention AI because it's 2023. Herbicides, NC State Extension. I worked for North Carolina State University in ag department a long time ago. I'm an Aggie. In Israel, I worked in citrus. I've worked in corn. I've worked in a banana plantation. I'm an Aggie. NC State Extension. Now, you may notice NC State is great. That's an observation, not a recommendation. You notice when I do like wildflowers, have you noticed that almost always the reference article I give you if you want to read more is from North Carolina State Extension, NCCES? So they've got something here about herbicides. And look, I even noticed, talk about an update from the old days. You can even read it in Spanish. Herbicides are chemicals used to control or suppress weeds. Pre-emergence herbicides are applied before weeds germinate, so you have to guess at what is likely to come up. And prevent the germinating seeds from establishing. Once emerged, so let's say you do a pre-emergence, but you still have weeds. Once your soybeans and the weeds have germinated and poked their heads above the soil. Now, I was out riding the day before yesterday, and I noticed that the corn crop is doing very well. That's right. In your field rotation, you plant the corn earlier and then after you get that all going, after a certain amount of time, you put the soybeans in, because the corn's going to be harvested about now, I'm guessing. And soybeans will be in like October. You knew that, right? At least in North Carolina. If you're in Uruguay, it would be kind of like the opposite months, because it's so south of the border. Once emerged, many weeds may be, they didn't even read it. Many weeds may be controlled ED. They needed some AI to do the grammar checking. Using post-emergence herbicides. That's what I know about. Once you know what weeds are out there, then you know what herbicide to use. But the herbicides are expensive. Or at least they used to be. So, are there enough weeds still that it's worth spraying them? Because they're going to compete with the growing soybean plants and decrease your yield because they use nutrients and water too. Or will they not really have enough of effect to offset the cost of trying to control them? Did you follow what I just said? So you need a decision model. Herbicides may be selective or non-selective, have contact action or systemic. The following resources have been developed to aid in selecting the most appropriate herbicide for the task. Post-herbicide efficiency rankings. It's a chart. They have it for woody ornamentals, herbaceous ornament. Well, a lot of it is home gardening too, but selecting herbicide program. This is another NC State, CES and CSU, EDU. Before selecting one or more herbicides, you should know what weeds are present or expect to appear, the soil texture and the organic matter content, the capabilities and limitations of various herbicides. Oh, you mean to say if there's like 50 different products available, I have to be a genius to know how each one will work depending on which weeds? Otherwise, what's a weed? A weed is a plant growing where you don't want it. That same weed in your soybeans, if it's out here in my lawn or along the roadside, it's called a wildflower. Think about it. They were here before we were. Got that? Who's they? The wildflowers. But they're in your corn crop. They're in your soybean crop. They're weeds. Because they compete. For what? Sometimes sunshine, but most often water and nutrients. And the capabilities and limitations of the various big number of herbicides, are you going to memorize them? And how to best apply them. You can now use North Carolina. Now, I'm reading this on a current day current day agricultural extension webpage from North Carolina State University in Raleigh, down there in Wake County. I'm in the heart of the Piedmont, and they are halfway to the coast. North Carolina Web HADSS, Herbicide Application Decision Support System, for help with weed management strategies. The first step in a weed management program is to identify the problem. Every field should be surveyed. That means you or a consultant goes out and walks around and counts them. Counts what? Well, you have to know what they are. Can you figure out what a weed this high is by looking at it? Can you name it? Remember, it's a plant, it's a wildflower if it's by the roadside. Can you name them? Can you identify them? Because you're going to select your strategy based on what's actually there once they poke their heads up. At about the same time, your soybeans are poking their heads up. The Weed Science Society of America website has excellent resources available for weed identification. Either that or you hire a consultant that knows how to do it. If you've got 1 acre of soybeans, I don't think you would hire a consultant. If you've got 200 acres, you might. So there's a click here that says it'll open a new web page. Now you can see I did it intentionally to show you that I already went there. This is North Carolina State University Extension. It's a current article I'm reading to you in 2023. I clicked on the link. It's their link. So it's some kind of decision program. This software is made available as is without warranty of any kind, expressed or implied, including but not limited to the implied warranties of. But this is all the regular disclaimer stuff. You see it on all kinds of products. So the herbicide application decision support system for field crops is designed to help you evaluate alternative weed management strategies. It's valid only for the 2009 crop year. We have used our best efforts to develop a computer program that will be beneficial to you. However, you should evaluate program recommendations in light of your own experience, there's the disclaimer, and of advice and information received from other sources, a professional that does it every day. Now, so I'm going to tell you, the information in the database that underlies this program that you run on your Windows computer was updated as of the coming growing season for 2009, implying that if you'd gone there earlier, it might have said 2008, 2007, and then what you do is you look over here on the left lower-hand side, and it says version information 2004.0.3. So this program, final code was released in 2004, 19 years ago. And the last revision of the supporting weed performance database was 2009. Do you think weeds have changed in the meantime? It doesn't even mention the operating system. And they have a cotton database version, a peanut database version, and a corn and soybean databases version, meaning that once you start the program, you can say, which one are you going for, corn or cotton? Oh, corn and or soybeans. Didn't I mention about crop rotation, corn and who gets what? So over here, you can click on soybeans. And here are prices. There's no indication here. Note that actual herbicide prices may vary from prices limited, and price may influence treatment economics. You identify the weeds, you count the populations to get an estimate for the whole area you're going to spray. You put it through the program, and it does a calculation. How much would it cost to spray that? And then you have to put in a forecast of what you think you would sell the soybeans for, and a forecast of what you think that land can optimally produce if it has no weed interference. How many tons of soybeans per acre? And then it does the simple arithmetic behind the scenes and says, no, don't bother spraying because the herbicide is going to cost more than what you're going to be able to make from selling the soybeans. Or it's going to say the other way around. If you don't apply, you're going to get this much yield and therefore your final money will be this. But if you do apply it, we subtract out the cost. And if that's what the final price would be, your yield's going to be less and you're going to make so much more money. A decision support software. Guessing at the future with computers. So that's the only link there. But before, when I clicked on it, this is what I got. Why do you think that happened? I clicked the same link. The answer is no one has gone to get that for so long, and it's backed up somewhere on a CD, and the machine had to put it in, and it simply timed out. But that goes along with the fact that this stuff is ancient. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm showing you the current state of if you're a farmer and you're online with a search engine trying to get help, this is what's going to happen. And I'm able to go through this because Google Scholar. I'm not going to tell you how I got to this. Herb, decision model for post-emergence weed control in soybean. To efficiently use post-emergence herbicides, decision makers must determine when weed populations exceed economic treatment thresholds. I've already explained that to you, but in simpler language. An interactive microcomputer. When was the last time you heard anybody say microcomputer? Program named Herb has been developed to evaluate potential crop damage from multi-species weed complexes in soybean glycine max, and glycine max is the botanical name, and it says L. That's Linnaeus, all the way back in Sweden, a couple hundred years ago, and determine the appropriate course of action. 76 weed species were rated on a scale 0 to 10 according to their competitiveness with soybean. So there might be the same weeds, but for corn, the rankings of the competitiveness would definitely be different. Same for cotton, different. So you have, remember I showed you that back-end database of herbicides? Well, the herbicides were for soybeans, What if you go to corn? The herbicide selections may be some the same and a lot different. Cotton, ditto. Potential yield loss is estimated from these rankings. That's what I said. The number behind the scenes, there was a crop growth model computer program. The number of weeds for each species present in the field and expected weed-free yield. The recommendation whether to apply a herbicide, and if so, which one, is based on the herbicide costs and efficacies under different conditions and expected soybean selling price. You have to guess at that. Can you guess what the soybean prices will be 6 months from now? Alternative herbicide choices are ranked according to expected net return. Herb is intended to provide the latest research information, at least up until 2009. What does that suggest? It's been superseded by something else? In an organized and easily usable format, this approach should be applicable to other crops and pests. Well, this is in the Agronomy Journal, 1991. And on the Agronomy Journal library, there it is. So we got it. I found it by way of Google Scholar. Thank you, Google. And then it had a link to where they found it. And I clicked on it. I didn't do it before. Let's see what it does. And this would be what other things were in that issue. Grazing tolerance of warm season legumes in peninsular Florida. Inhibition of weed seed germination by microwaves. Development of growth of tropical maize at 2 elevations in Hawaii. Oh, you mean Maui? I wasn't making fun of anything. Well, it turns out that if you were to go and look, there are other things, like weed control in soybean with pre-emergence and post-emergence applied herbicide. And this article that they're referencing here, which I can't go to directly, was published in June of 2017. So it's an ongoing, changing field. But the point is that the particular program that I wrote the code for, on an IBM PC AT, you don't even know what that is. Let's see if I got it right. Well, the price then was $6,000, which is $17,600. Okay, there's a picture of it. Yeah, with floppy drives. Yeah, that's right, with floppy drives. With 3.5-inch floppy drives. And the program was distributed on diskettes, 3.5-inch diskettes. Yeah, that's right. That's what I programmed it. That's the computer I used. See, I'm just grinning. I'm smiling. So what did I mean at the beginning by I'm partly to blame? America's farmers are bogged down by data. Where's that article? Let's go down the bottom. What's the closing thought? I haven't read this. Let's see what the closing thought on this Wall Street Journal article published August 22nd, 2023. That's today. We're talking about 1990, 91 versus today, 2023. How many years is that? Meanwhile, farms of all sizes are pressured by higher costs of seed, pesticides, and fertilizer, an intensifying labor shortage, and adverse weather events. That could have been written in 1990, right here in North Carolina. What's new? The country's smallest farms. You mean, I used to work occasionally with ag consultants, and there was one down by the coast who I thought was a really smart guy. And these small farms, here's what happens. I can think of a particular family right just 5 miles from here. Happened to them. The family, they're married, they have kids, the kids go to school, the kids go off and do other things. Finally, dad dies. Mom gets to be 90 years old and she's still living on the original farm. The kids are all gone. So it's fallow. As long as she can pay the taxes on it, nobody can touch it. And she's healthy. Got it? I'm talking about real situations, North Carolina, that I have seen 30 years ago and seen now. So what this consultant 30 years ago did, he was a grower. He'd go around to those kind of widows and older people. And he said, look, you've got 50 acres. You've got 100 acres. You're not using it. Here's what I want to do. I want to grow soybeans on there. I don't want to buy it. We'll have a contract. I'll grow soybeans. I'll show you my books. I'll rent the land for a certain amount of money to grow soybeans. And if we do well, are lucky when we sell, market demand and all that, I'll give you 20% of my profits. Would you like to sign a contract with me to let me farm your land as part of my big operation? So he personally only owns 100 acres, but he farms 3,000 acres. That was 30 years ago. Do you think anything's changed? No, it's become even more. It's still possible the newer tech will help smaller growers keep up against the larger competitors, according to USDA, United States Department of Agriculture researchers. I'm just reading from the article. Jerry, a corn and soybean farmer in Iowa who works about 2,200 acres. I'm reading this for the first time. Said farm management software has helped his farm a one-man show. What's changed? How did he get 2,000 acres? He might have had 2,000 to start with, or he bought neighbors' lands as they died. Mitigate the impact of labor shortages. No, Iowa's in its third year of drought. But technology has improved his per acre yield by 8 to 18 bushels of corn and 3 to 12 bushels of soybeans. So they pick out a stellar case that if he didn't have computing support, not microcomputing in the sense of IBM PC AT. Yeah, that article said microcomputer. It meant IBM PC AT. No, if I can gain more yield and not have to make an extra pass across the field, why would he have to make an extra pass across the field? Because if the weeds get in there, it interferes with the harvester machinery. And a lot of the soybeans were not ripped off and thrown into the bin. and he's got to make another pass to try to get them after the weeds have been damaged and the plants have been damaged, hoping to get enough to make it worth the diesel fuel, etc., and the labor cost, etc. 2,200 acres. But technology has improved his yield by 8 to 18 bushels on corn and 3 to 12 bushels on. So how much is a bushel of corn? How much is a bushel of soybeans? How much I'd haven't. Price per bushel. Soybean prices, 45-year chart. So we'll assume this is, US dollars per bushel, and the end of the chart is about $15 right now. $15 per bushel. Go figure out the weight. How much weight in the bushel depends on what's in the bushel, right? Corn, soybean, cotton, boom, boom. Got it? So I was in on it near the beginning, so to speak. I wrote the actual code. I can either smile about it or I can cry about it. I wonder how farmers feel about it now. Steve AB4L, America's farmers are bogged down by data. Wall Street Journal. Saying, see you in 73.